Huh.
All right, so I'm bringing you back in for this little bit. So I glued the shims onto the tenon here, the dovetail tenon, on the end of the neck. Put a little chalk inside the actual mortise here on the body at the end of things. I've been working it down. I made this angle block here a while back. I saw John Hall of Blues Creek Guitars. I believe he was using a block like this. I thought that was a really good idea. So, and you don't, just for conversation's sake here, you don't sand the inside of the mortise. You leave the mortise alone and you fit the dovetail to the mortise. Obvious reasons. It's much easier to get at this. Excuse me. Much easier to get to the tenon end of things here on the neck than it is to get to the mortise end of things. So you put some chalk in here. These shims were about 30 thousandths. I think I mentioned before I turned you off last that we only needed about 5 thousandths worth of shims on either side of this. So it's really going to be very close. That's why I didn't even shim the entire side of the tenon, because by the time I get these things really fit, there's going to be so little edge here that it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to be a gap in there for glue to fill or anything. It's going to be really close. I do have some assembly tape up here because it's heavier than, I should say it's more durable than masking tape. And what I do there is when I'm sanding, I put the tip of the block up on top of that assembly tape so that it doesn't, I don't want to sand the top of my tenon. And I just very honestly don't trust myself to hold that block so perfectly parallel to the shim without having something to rest the tip of it on. So I put that up there. It keeps me from sanding into the mortise up there, and I have that on both sides. Now I've worked it down quite a bit, and I just checked it, and as far as coming in straight to the top, keeping the heel, and the fretboard flat to the top of the guitar. So just measured that. My measurement's the same on either side. So I'm coming, and also I don't have any kind of angle, that's happened in the process of whittling these shims down. So now what I do basically is I put it in the mortise, go ahead and give it a little squeeze, just pull it in as tight as I can that way, and then just pop that loose, pop the neck out. Look at it to see where I have chalk marks, and chalk marks are pretty much all the way across both sides, the outside edge and the inside edge of the shim. So I know I'm bearing parallel, which is really good. I'm not just catching like the corner of the tenon in here. I'm catching the full contact of the shim. So I'm bearing all of that mass against the side of the mortise. That's a good thing, right? You don't want to just catch one little edge. You want to be able to catch all of it. So now I just take, you can't see that. I'll lower you down here. I just take this block, which is very, very close to being the exact angle. It might be a degree or two off, and what I do there is I give it about 4 passes laying flat, and then I'll tip it up to where it meets the angle on the back of the neck heel there, and I'll give it another 4. And then I flip it over. Like I said, since I'm going down so well in parallel, I'm going to keep my strokes even, and that way all I have to do is just keep sanding down until the thing snugs up to where it needs to be. I'm also checking when I have it in here. I'm also checking whether I have any movement on top, because I do have those little pieces of tape in there, and I don't want those to be hanging me up from coming down. And so I've right now just got to the point where I don't have any side-to-side movement on top. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take those pieces of tape out. I've still got 32nd, which is like a mile on this particular procedure. Yeah, I'm right. If you look at the other side of the scale, I'm right at 3/64. There. And there. So, I'm still coming down parallel. If I were not, and let's just pick a side. Say I was, oh well, whatever side. If I was closer on this side, I was higher on this side, and I wanted to be able to bring the high side, this side, down, I'd have to twist this thing, right? So I would want to take material off of this side of the tenon so that it would force the heel over that way a little bit. I'm also looking at where I was originally as far as center. You got a center line here, and there's a center line in the binding, and there's a hole where the strap was at, and then there's the point of the heel there, and that's all lining up really super well. So that gives me an indicator as well. The other thing that you can look at is where your existing lines were on the body itself. Now, you don't have to match the existing lines on the body. If I had a situation that I wanted to correct the string lie on the neck, I would definitely sacrifice not matching the line here so as to have more playability. Some people might disagree with me, depending on probably on the severity of what the string lie was, how unequal it was. But I'm having all of the best of both worlds, or the best of all worlds. There's a few of them going on here. So I'm very happy with the way this is working out, in other words. Now, the Gibson I did previously that I videoed, I had a little bit of a problem with that. Part of the problem, of course, was that it was not stained under there, so when I used the leather dye to stain it and get it very, very close to the original color, and you couldn't tell after the fact, but there was a little bit of a difference that you could see before I touched up the finish. There is nothing like that on this one. It's very, very tight. There's no exposed old line, so the neck is going back in pretty much exactly the way it was, other than the fact that it's tipping down now like it needs to compensate for the string height. So I'm very pleased with the way that's working out. I am going to go ahead and sand this one more time with the tape on, then I'm going to pull the tape off and pop it in here, see what we get. And if it were closer than this, I would take the tape off. I would not take the chance of sanding that and getting it, because I know this tape up here isn't holding me off the guitar that much. So there again, we're going to do this. I did 6 that time, and both ways, flat on the block and then up against the heel. Now I'm going to pull the tape. And now it will be, what I'll do is I'll put tape on the sandpaper end of things so that I know I'm still not going to be digging a hole in this neck. I got a little bit of goo stuck here, so I'm going to scrape that off. Alrighty. Okay, I'm a 32nd away from the line that's in this binding, the parallel line, which is where the neck was when I razor bladed the finish off here, in between the body and the neck. And that's farther than I am up here, right? Because I'm 3/64 still. So that didn't really come in any. Yeah, and I'm a little less than a 32nd there, so not quite 3/64, but less than a 64th, 32nd. And I have movement on the top again since I took that tape out up there. I've got quite a bit of wobble up there. So that should, though, because when I had it fit with the tape before on the bottom, as you saw previously, it came right down in here, totally bottomed out on the top of the guitar, and I didn't have any wobble anywhere. So we're just going to keep doing this, and I'm not going to bother running the camera for that. But you guys, you know the process here. And I'm going to keep going with it. When I get it ready to pop in the glue in there, I'll bring you back. I'll bring you back in for just a second here. I'm just showing you that I did tape this block. I could have done this from the very start, and I just didn't think about it at the time. So as long as there's a way to interrupt, keep the sandpaper from digging into the neck, the tenon up here, where you don't want to remove any material. So this gives you the same action. And it's actually a little thinner, so it'll start taking that feather edge down right there on the shim a little more. So I'm sure by the time I'm through with this, we're going to have pretty much nothing here, maybe a thousandth of a difference in the elevation on that. And then out here at the very tip will be at around the 5 thousandths mark. So, once again, I'll bring you back in when I'm gluing things up. Alright, so been fitting this neck into the pocket. It's in there, it's clamped. It is completely flush on both sides here. It's down to that line I had on the back I talked about. I'm not picking it up because it is just clamped in position. Well, it was, it's tight. It's holding itself in. I put the jack underneath the bridge to bring it up to where I'm at with string tension, and so now on top of the new frets, and string it up to here, and you can't see that obviously, but you can hear it. I've got, I didn't measure it. I can measure it just for kicks and giggles. I've got my other dealie over here. Where'd it go? Well, there it is. I was just using this. Now, what was I using it for? Oh, I was measuring underneath my extension here to see how much of a shim I might have to put in. And one thing I'm not happy about, of course, it's impossible not to have this. I'm debating whether I should call the customer and ask him if he just wants to live with the fall away here over the, over the extension, because obviously when you bring the neck down, the extension is going to stay on the top of the guitar. If you on the Gibson, I put a shim in there and pushed it up. I measured this one, and at 35 thousandths of a shim under here, it's just about, it looks pretty good. You still have some fall away with a 35 thousandths shim. What is that? 125 is an eighth, 75 is a 16th. So about half of that, 35, I said about half. 32nd. Did I say that right? Yeah, 16th would be 75, so about half would be 32nd. So right around that, I hope I'm doing my math wrong. 30 seconds sounds huge, but 35 thousandths. I'll have to do my math. I can't do anything in my head. My brain is shot. Anyway, what was I going to, I was going to measure, see, I told you my brain was shot. I'm going to measure underneath this. I'm just going to grab a 5. I'm going to measure underneath this straight edge and see what I actually have straight edging off the top of the frets here to the top of the bridge. Yeah, it's a little more than 5 thousandths. So let's pop it up to 10. Let's see if 10 goes in there. I think 10 might be just about right there, or maybe a little bit big. You never know. Yeah, 10 is too much. So obviously it's between 5 and 10. So let's get back down there and go with let's go with 7. Anyway, really no point in knowing exactly what it is. I know that it's close enough that when I get a saddle iron string this thing up, it's going to be right perfect. Even 7's a tad. So, well, it kind of depends on where I shove this thing, because there's still a little bit of a couple thousandths relief there. And when you teeter-totter this thing, that makes a difference. But yeah, we'll call it 7. I'm just as pleased as I can be. I'm pretty happy with the fit on the neck as well. It's really nice and tight. I'm going to go make up some fresh hide glue, and I may talk about this more again when I do the actual gluing. But I'll tell you what. There's a lot of talk about Type-On versus hide glue and all that kind of stuff, and fish glue. If I had some fish glue, I'd probably use it. I've never used it, but it's an animal glue. The reason I go back on these older instruments with what I think they used is just to keep the integrity of the instrument as it was originally. I have no problem with Type-On. I think that's Type-On is an excellent glue. And I've been using it for years, just in my cabinet shop, and all of my guitars that I've built with Type-On. So I have absolutely no quarrel with that. I just like to keep the integrity of the original instrument. The original instrument was the neck was set with hide glue, and that's what I want to go back in with. Excuse me. The other thing I really like about hide glue, especially for a neck set or a bridge, is the fact that the cleanup on that is amazing. You can clamp it up, and you can still get in there and just use some hot water on the end of a Q-tip or a rag with a popsicle stick on it or whatever, and you can just work around all your joints and then farther out, and you can just wash everything down really well. And if you do miss something, then at a later date, after all your clamps are gone, you can actually go in and, just get some hot water again on that rag and scrub it off. So it's pretty nice product from that set viewpoint. Anyway, and I realize I have my Gorilla Glue shirt on. I got this free at work. I don't use Gorilla Glue. I don't like urethane glue. I don't care who makes it, whether it's Gorilla Glue or Type-On or anybody. I don't have any need for urethane glue except for loose chaired leg joints because it expands. Everything else, it's just a nightmare. I'm good. I'm done. I'm going to go, like I said, it's later in the evening now. I'm going to go in and mix up some hide glue, cook it, and then tomorrow morning I think I'll pop this neck in before I head off to work. So, all right, early morning here before the real job. Was out here last night, made the shim for under the the fretboard extension, and a little coal to clamp it down with. And you know, talked about how there's a little bit of a curl at the end of the fretboard here from the you know, fretting it without it being on the guitar, and pushing it down a little bit. So even though they were very, very loose in the slots and I glued them in. So here's the deal. I put a block underneath, radius block underneath, to straighten that curl out while I clamped the shim on. This shim is so thin that I'm not 100% sure that it's going to hold it in, you know, straight now. Kind of like a truss. But I didn't want to glue it on with the curl, because then it would make it even that much more difficult to straighten it out, clamping it down to the top of the guitar. So that's what all this is about. I didn't need 6 clamps to clamp a little shim in. So we just had to have all those pieces in there to get the thing straightened out. And it looked pretty straight, eyeballing it. I glued my caul to it though, because actually I may or may not have glued my caul to it. I had this masking tape on the shim as I was making it, and I had it glued down to the bench to plane it, and to plane it off, and then to sand it off into the final wedge shape. So it's about 37 thousandths out here at the very fattest edge to nothing up here where it meets the heel. And anyway, so you know, the masking tape super glue thing where you glue the 2 faces of tape together and have the masking tape sticky itself facing the caul, one facing the bench in this case, and one facing your shim. But it still had that tape on it, so it's taped itself to the caul. But I thought it'd be better to take the tape off after the shim was glued on than before. And so now I'm going to separate this. He says. Surprising how well masking tape holds. Maybe we should just tape fretboard extensions down. I have to get my iron out just to... There we go. Alright, so got the little caul off. You can see it's just got notches in it to hold the edges down right next to the dovetail, which I had the extra little clamps on. Now we'll peel the masking tape off, theoretically. Anywho, so just getting this off of here. Got a little bit of squeeze out on that inside edge there. It's glued to the masking tape now. All right. get this thing in my way because I'm going to stick my guitar back here and polish the end out before I set the neck. And I'm pretty much going to do that next, so that's why I didn't just unscrew the thing, but I'm working over it, which is kind of lame. Alright, so shim is in. It's, like I said, going down to nothing. This is really hard to see what I'm doing. So this will just get trimmed down to meet the fretboard here. Like I said the other day that this it's black up the edge of the fretboard until you get to the body, and then it was brown again. It just, but apparently for whatever reason on this side is that bass side, it stops right here, and then it's just rosewood color. Over here it carries on through with the black that they put on the edge of the fretboard. So apparently, I don't know. I don't know how that happened. It's right next to the body. It'd be kind of hard to maybe just polishing the guitar over the years. Whoever owned it rubbed it off of there. So I got to get going. I'll be trimming that up, and basically I'm going to take some leather dye and stain the edge of this shim on all the way around it, and then also at the edge of the fretboard here where it's not the same color. I'll dye it all black so everything just blends together, and then get it on the guitar. Bring you back in later on. All right, just bring you back in so you can see what's going on with here. I blew the left off. I had glued the shim in, and I've trimmed it, sanded it around, stained the edge and the heel here, the end of the fretboard and the other side. And I did a coat of Zap Z-Epoxy, the finishing resin. You've probably seen guys use this for, see if I can find the camera. It's very strange when it's zoomed in a bit. Anyway, so it's just the Z-Epoxy finishing resin, not the Z-Epoxy adhesive. So it's thinner. It's a lot thinner. I use this on a grain fill on a bass rehab. I did videos on that. Did, I think, like a finish up video on that. Anyway, it was part of the process of grain filling after I stripped the finish off of it. It was a 70 or 71 Guild Starfire bass. Now let me explain something that didn't work very well on that, and I think it's because I had previous finish residue still on the instrument or something. It just wouldn't dry. It just stayed tacky. And so I put it up in the cabinet. I said, well, I'm never using this stuff again. But a while back I needed a little bit of a filler on something, and I tried it and it hardened up just like it's supposed to. And so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to be off camera here for a second, because I'm just making a little puddle of these, and they're just 50-50. That's the nice thing about this particular product. You don't have to, I think it's the West systems, you have to weigh or measure because the hardener is a little different quantity than the resin. So anyway, all I did was I mixed up a little puddle of this stuff yesterday, and I just ran a finger over, all the way around the thing with the resin to fill any voids or gaps that I might have in there. I still have a few. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just use it as a filler. And then I sanded it down, leveled it out a little bit, and in some places it wasn't thick enough, so I went right through it and I had to re-dye. So I'm trying session 2 here. Hopefully I don't get to session 3. This is the kind of stuff that you just can't account for time-wise when you're doing something like this. You just, for me, I just got to take the time and do this and make myself happy with it. So I just mix that up. So I'm doing the whole thing again here. Just get a finger full of this resin here and start puddling it on there. I'm not too worried about getting a little bit over the finish, especially up here on this other part of the fretboard. All of that will all gets kind of fine-tuned and fine sanded down and then buffed back up. And this is actually, I mean, it's acting like finish itself. So there wouldn't be any reason why I couldn't, if I got this on, I might do another layer over this without sanding it again and build it up a bit. So if you get a little buildup on this and you can level sand it, it'll shine up just like anything else. So you notice I got quiet, so I'm concentrating. All right. I just ate dinner. I don't know if you can hear my stomach on the video. It's making noise. All right, I'll put a little more over here. I'm kind of tucking it into a couple of little spots here where I want it to level out and fill a teeny gap between my shim and the existing fretboard. Have I had that rant yet where I talk about fretboards and fingerboards and how misused the terms are? Anyway, I'll spare you. No, maybe I won't. Obviously a fretboard has frets in it, a fingerboard doesn't. You don't call a fingerboard a fretboard because there's no frets in it. Consequently, you don't call a fretboard a fingerboard. So there you have it. That's my rant. But you get people working on fretless instruments calling them fretboards, and I'm sure it's just a slip of the tongue, but you know, I'm just crazy that way. And I don't, you know, I guess it gets to me more when it's like the guy writing a, you know, an educated article on you know, technical things regarding instruments, and then they say something like fretboard when they should be saying fingerboard, or vice versa. It's usually the other way. People tend to call fretboards fingerboards. So there's that rant. If I've already had it, I apologize. I'm hoping this will level out on this heel here. This heel cap. I put some on yesterday and it left me some little ridges and valleys and stuff, so I'm trying to get it leveled out. Because I sanded that off, because when I was scribing around the line, I got a little line out here, so I sanded it down. I sanded the color, the original color off of it. You could say the patina, the original plastic there. Anyway, I'm looking pretty good here. It's on there kind of heavy, and I'm not going to film me running a hairdryer and heating this up. But I'm going to heat this up a little bit, so I kind of set this because I don't want it running off of here. You know, laying it sideways. It's going to want to sag. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to run a hairdryer on it for a while and kind of get it to tack up. And yeah, like I said, you don't need to hear that. So I'm going to cut you loose here and bring you back in. I think, well, I may do another coat of this and then on to setting this neck back in the guitar. Thanks for watching, guys. I don't know where I'm going to be in these videos. I keep saying this because I've been editing these together now, which is a little better than what I was doing before. But like a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. Me doing a little bit of editing is kind of dangerous. There we go. Alrighty, yep. That's it. I'm cutting you loose.